Okay, welcome back. So you may recognize these two matrices A and B that we used before in the last video. We're going to now look at, last time we looked at adding and subtracting matrices. So we're going to do a little bit more of that later on. But the main thing we want to talk about here is scalar multiples of matrices, okay? And when I mean a scalar, I just mean a number, okay? Um, what happens if I take a number and multiply it by a matrix? Well, kind of if we think back to what multiplication means just for numbers, right? If I have 3 times 4, right, that means I'm doing 4 added to itself 3 times, right? Repeated addition is what multiplication by a number usually means. And so when I say here that I want to find 5 times A, 5 is a number and A is a matrix, right? So I want to essentially what this means is that when I do 5A, that's going to be the matrix A plus the matrix A plus the matrix A 5 times, right? So is that 5 times? One more. Okay. So I'm going to do the matrix A added to itself 5 times in order to get 5A. Now, there's actually a much simpler way of doing this. Turns out if you do add A to itself 5 times, well, when you add A to itself once, this first entry, at first it's going to start out as 2, right? But then once you get a second one, right? When you add A again, you'll get 4. When you add A again, you get 6. When you add A again, you get 8. And you can see that really by doing this, when you do 5A, you will just need to multiply each of the entries by this number 5 because it's going to be added to itself 5 times. Okay? So essentially what I just do is I do 5 times 2 for the first entry, 5 times 0, 5 times 7, 5 times negative 3, 5 times 5, and 5 times negative 1/2. Okay? So that's how you would get this 5A. And of course we can simplify this down a little bit. My answer would just be here 10, 0, 35, negative 15, 25, and negative 5/2. Okay, so when we're multiplying here, right, we just multiply all the entries by the scalar that's out front. Okay, and that would be our final answer for 5A. Okay. So now that we have that, I'm going to kind of draw a line here. I want to get this other one. I want to get what B minus 2A is, okay? Okay. So what I would recommend doing here when you're doing anything with multiple things going on here, we've got a subtraction and we've got a scalar multiple going on here. So what I would do first is, well, you have to do multiplication before you do addition or subtraction, right? That's just order of operations. So I'm going to do 2 times A first, and figure out what that is. So I just take all my entries of A and times them by 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. 0 times 2 is 0. 2 times 7 is 14. 2 times -3 is -6. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times -1/2 is -1. Okay, so we figured out what 2a was first. Okay, and now what we'll do is we will do b minus 2a, right? So b is this guy right here. So I'm going to take the entries of b and then subtract the entries of 2a from it, okay? So b minus 2a would be the matrix. Well, I start with b, so 1 minus 4 is -3. -3 minus 0 is -3. 2 minus 14 is -12. Okay. 0 minus -6 is +6. 1 minus 10 is 9. 2 minus -1 is +3. Okay? So that would be b minus 2a. Okay, and that would be my answer there. So hopefully that kind of helps, so that as you're working through, you've got some on the homework where you're trying to find scalar multiples of matrices, as well as some things like this where you have combinations of scalar multiples and addition and subtraction. Okay. So I think that's it for this video. In the next video, we're going to look at solving equations where we have matrices as the variable. Okay, and I'll kind of show you what that means more in that video. Okay, we'll see you next time.